Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a match preview in association with Luke Roper. If you use the code TVV20, you'll get 20% off everything Luke Roper has to offer, including sale items as well, which is always nice because they give good discounts themselves anyway. It is a match preview. Premier League is back and Aston Villa are back at Villa Park, Neil, to play Liverpool on Boxing Day. I've completely forgotten the kickoff time. I think it's 5:30. Don't quote me on that in case it's wrong. So, yeah, looking forward to being back at Villa Park. And Neil, how are you? Did you enjoy the World Cup?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it for what it was, and I enjoyed the final, I must say.
What a game.
And there was some good games in between. There were some memorable games. I know that the country of Saudi Arabia will never forget this World Cup, and I know the country of Morocco will never forget this World Cup, and the country, I suppose there were some nice highlights out of the World Cup itself, but to me it got in the way of where we were as a club at Aston Villa. Obviously, look, my colours to the mast. I'm Irish. We weren't in the World Cup. I was only watching it to see for the spectacle of it being a World Cup as well. So I dipped in and out of some games, but then there was other games that I wouldn't miss for the world. Unfortunately, I did miss the England and France game, and I say unfortunately because it was a good game, not for the result. But there was some games that I couldn't get to. But all in all, I thought it was fine. It was grand. I thought the final was brilliant, and I thought there was some really good highlights in between.
Yeah, it's gone now, though. We're going to try and forget it. Not too many Villa players were on World Cup duty, except for one very pivotal man who was obviously got all the way to the final and won it. So we congratulate Martinez. But Neil, in terms of the Liverpool game on Boxing Day, from Unai Emery's, I can't say our manager's name, which is a little bit of a problem. From Unai Emery's press conference, it turns out that he probably isn't going to be playing on Boxing Day, which is what I took away from the press conference. And, whoever's in goal, it sounds like Olsen's got a knock as well. So it could be down to fifth choice goalkeeper being in goal at this rate when you think about who's on loan and Jed Steer not being back as well. It's a huge, huge blow anyway, the loss of Martinez, because I think if we could have just got him back, or if he'd have got himself back, whatever the case may be, having him there, he must be on such a high at the moment. And you then come back to a packed Villa Park, everyone singing your name, everyone giving you a great reception and congratulating you. You're probably going to go there and have an unbelievable game and feel on top of the world. So it's a huge miss him not being there on Boxing Day potentially.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not surprised that he's not there. I had heard two different stories during the week. One was that he was going to play this game. He was going to play Spurs. He was going to play Wolves. And then it was going to be a case where he'd miss the Stevenage game, and that's where he would take his break. And that seemed totally plausible because he probably won't. Well, I would be absolutely blown away if he plays the Stevenage game anyway. So it seemed plausible that that's what they would do. But I presume what happened was that the decision was down to Emmy himself. It's now Friday. He's probably been drinking solid since Monday morning, since Sunday afternoon.
He looked like he had been, if I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Well, and that's fine. You know what? Like let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Because I tell you, I'd be drinking till next Sunday if that was the case. And I'm not talking about the Sunday just coming, the Sunday afterwards. I'd be drinking straight through to 2023 if I just won the biggest international cup known to man. So he's well entitled to his time off. It's not ideal that we've got Liverpool. I do want to see him back in an Aston Villa shirt, and Villa have done a lot for him in allowing him to go and play with Argentina previously to this, to build his stature with Argentina. Remember, there was times when he was flying home and he was literally, overnighting it to get back to play games for Villa, which wasn't ideal either. But that's hopefully all in the past now with regards to his international career, from the point of view of it'll be full steam ahead now for the rest of the year for Aston Villa. And I think that there will probably be some sort of gentleman's agreement involved with regards to it. Listen, if it does come down to Argentina and Villa with regards to maybe a Copa America or some qualification games, look, Villa have to take precedence between now and the end of June because we've been nice to you in this instance. I think that Emmy's the type of player that would say, yeah, listen, fair play and thanks a million for that.
Yeah, it's kind of worked as a two-way street so far, hasn't it, really? I think Villa have been good to him. I think there's been times where he's rushed back and played games because Villa have needed him as well. I remember, I think it was Brentford at home last season in September. I remember there was talk of him not being able to play, and he came back and he made himself available and he played in that game. I guess the big thing at the moment is normally, you trust your second goalkeeper. And now, obviously, there'll be Villa fans that don't trust the second goalkeeper at the moment. But the issue is he's got an injury as well. So potentially he won't be available. Then, as I mentioned at the start, Jed Steer's not ready to play yet. Sinsalo's on loan at Burton, I think, at the moment as well. So you could be down to your fifth choice goalkeeper, which is Philip Marshall, I believe. And it's just that's unprecedented. If you get down to your fifth choice goalkeeper in the pecking order, Villa can't even recall Sinsalo until January, I believe. So it would be some baptism of fire. But you would imagine they didn't play Olsen in that last friendly because they wanted to get him ready for the Premier League.
Oh, it's going to be Robin Olsen, or it could be some late Christmas surprise where there is somebody out there as a free agent at the moment. His name is Neil Cutler, and maybe we might see him back in between the sticks. Wouldn't be a bad option.
I'll understudy him as well. Yeah, I've got some pedigree in goal. I'll understudy.
No, it's definitely going to be Robin Olsen. I think the whole Robin Olsen as a knock piece is just. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll basically. I can imagine that the team doctor is going to have plenty of files in Novocaine, and he's going to inject whatever the hell is punishing Robin Olsen, because he'll be looking at him going, with the help of God, you won't be playing again for the rest of the year because we need Emmy in goals, essentially. So yeah, it's going to be Robin Olsen, and as I say, it's going to be, look, we're just going to have to live and die by what that decision is, and hope that he plays the game of his life.
How do you feel about that? I don't want to initiate a pile on him at all. And goalkeepers can come under such heavy scrutiny anyway. But he played 2.5 games and we've conceded 11 goals. And last time out he played in the Cup against Manchester United, he didn't particularly look comfortable with what we were trying to do. Now, there's been a bit more time in training, a bit more time working under Unai Emery, especially for him because he's been available for training the whole time since this break's taken place, and he's been away with the team. So he's had more time to perhaps get used to what Emery wants. But there was some concerns in that last game, wasn't there, Neil?
Yeah, there was. And there's been some concerns, I think, in these preseason friendlies, albeit in the press conference today, Unai Emery had said that, it's not really about these preseason games. These preseason games were what they were for him. It was an opportunity to get a look at the team. I personally don't read too much into those friendlies, but Robin Olsen did play the majority of that time. So we would hope that there's some sort of gelling and there's some sort of simpatico. Now, saying that, and this is something that we might get onto later on, there seemed to be very little gelling of any other partnership other than Mings and Konza over those course of the 4 games. And I think that
Luiz and Kamara.
Pardon me.
Luiz and Kamara.
Oh, no, I'm talking about just the 2 centre halves.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so anybody who came in there into centre half position, whether it would be Bednarak for a short period of time or even Callum Chambers, I thought it didn't look fluid at all, and it looked really ropey between them back there, which obviously then translates into the goalkeeper behind. So yeah, it's look, we can only go on what we've seen by him, and the historical data that we have with him for Aston Villa is that he has a rick in him, and he has he tends to be, he comes across as this guy who's really, really quiet. And I'll give you an example, because I think that there's from the preseason piece, or this, not the preseason, they keep calling it preseason, this mini season, I know what you mean. Call it mini off season. Like if I was Broja, I'd be looking at him going, Robert Olsen, if you came for that ball and didn't stick to your line, then I wouldn't have a damaged ACL. And it's just little things like that whereby he's very slow to think. He isn't somebody who takes the game by the scruff of the neck. And when he panics, things just don't tend to go right for him. And we saw it against Manchester United as well. So look, as I say, every player is capable of overplaying their historical ability on any given day. And we would just have to hope that he would look at this and go, it's Liverpool. I have the opportunity here. I know I'm going to have it for some time period out from the game. So why not go away and play the best game of my life? There's my optimistic side coming out.
Let's hope so. I mean, for me, a modern day goalkeeper, his starting position is very, very deep for a goalkeeper. Yeah. He sticks to his line a lot, doesn't like to stray too far from his 6-yard box. And in the modern day, I'm not sure that's a sustainable thing. Look, I know Neil Cutler rates him very, very high. He's talked about how good he is in training and his mindset, and as a number 2, he's an international goalkeeper. Hopefully, the Villa fans will get behind him and it will give him some confidence, and he'll come out and he'll have a good game, like you say. This break came at a bit of a bad time for Villa really. You know, we were dying for a break under Steven Gerrard. I'd have taken a break at any point in the season under Steven Gerrard. But Unai Emery came in. Villa won 2 games. One of them playing very, very well against Manchester United. Deserved to win that game at Villa Park. And then the second game, a bit more of the dark arts, a bit more winning ugly, winning when you weren't at your best. A couple of players missing from the start in that game as well. So we've already seen 2 sides of what Unai Emery can bring. Liverpool's going to be a huge, huge test at Villa Park because some of their star men, they haven't really been away at the World Cup. If you look at Salah, for example, they've got some young players coming through as well. Carvalho played quite well last night. He's one who wasn't away and will be refreshed and has had a break. Firmino didn't go with Brazil if he's fit. I know he's carrying a bit of a knock at the moment. But as the big teams go, I feel like Liverpool didn't have too many away. And those that were away, with maybe the exception of Van Dijk and Alisson, you know, you think of Trent, Fabinho, you know, they didn't play much for their country.
A lot of work,
they feel quite fresh. But then on the plus side, Villa didn't have too many away either, other than the critical person, which is the goalkeeper. Villa will have everyone back and fresh as well. So it should be interesting because it's 2 teams, in theory, that are pretty well rested.
Yes. And then the counter to that is, and I'll discuss that in a moment, because I read a really interesting piece, a really interesting comment that Erik ten Hag said. And sometimes Erik ten Hag comes across as somebody who's just got a book full of excuses to me. But then again, he comes across as somebody who talks a lot of sense. Now, I read this comment a couple of times and I said, you know what, I'm going to put this in this is talking a lot of sense column, and I'll see. And I reserve the right to move it into the excuses column later on. But what he said was, he said that even though some of the players that he had away didn't play, they've been immersed in around a different group of players. They're also listening and talking about different tactics, different setups, training in different ways, maybe not training with the same intensity that they would, or training to the same patterns, or maybe training to the same defensive structures, etc., that they would be when they're with their club. So when they come back, for some people to think that, oh, maybe they only need a week or 10 days to get back into the run of things, it may not be as easy to clear their heads of that, because the modern day player is so mechanical in the way that they undertake a position or a game plan. And specifically for tournament play, when an international manager knows that they have those players for at least 3 games, it gets kind of ingrained in them. It gets ingrained for a period of time. And not like it would be if they were to go away for a 2-week period and play 2 games over a qualifying series. It's a bit different, because every team that goes there almost expects to get to the final. So I thought that was an interesting piece, whereby maybe the fact that Aston Villa only had 2 players really that played in the World Cup would be 2 outfield players, I'd say, that played, and one of them, then Donker, probably won't even start for us at the weekend.
No, you wouldn't.
That wouldn't affect us as much. So it's an interesting one, and I think in a lot of ways that game and the Liverpool and Man City game, I think you could see a bit of ring rust. Passing there was a lot of dreadful passing in it as well. But I know you took an awful lot more interest in it than I did. I had actually 2 things on it at the same time. I was half watching the game, but I was watching the darts as well. But the Liverpool game last night, a Man City game, it was obviously back and forth, end to end. Do you think that's going to take a lot out of them, even more so than maybe players coming back from the World Cup will?
I would say if Liverpool lined up with that team that they had last night, which I don't think they will, because I think Van Dijk, for one, will be back, and I think Fabinho will start. I think I'd fancy Villa against that team. I think they'd cause that team trouble. Joe Gomez isn't having the best moment of his life at the moment. So this season, really, I look at the way he's defending. I thought his body position for the Haaland goal, and you know Haaland's going to be on the move. I thought Joe Gomez has looked shaky whenever he's played centre-back. So I imagine it'll be Matip and Van Dijk, I would think, based on last night from watching them. But Liverpool, they're not... There's something missing that was there last season now. Yes, Mane is not there. Diaz is missing for a period as well because he's injured. But I was watching him last night, and when Fabinho came on in that midfield, he still doesn't look right for me. And he's been a big player for them over the last few years. But he looks like he can be got at, and he looks like he doesn't like it when people are running towards him. Now, I'm imagining Villa are going to play, obviously, this... We don't know what formation he's really, but out of possession, definitely. It's a 4-4-2. I think we'll see Bailey and Watkins up front, and they'll split like they did against Manchester United. And then you've got runners coming from midfield. Hopefully Ramsey, if he's fit wide. And then I'm going to say it's probably going to be McGinn or Buendia. On the other flank, the wide players kind of come inside, and that's where I think Villa can get some joy against Liverpool, because they're not playing to the same level defensively that they have been over previous years. In moments last night, they looked good and they caused Manchester City problems. Now, Manchester City had a few players missing as well. They had a rookie, although he's very highly rated, playing in their defence last night. But Man City in the first half looked like obviously they could score a few. But Liverpool are the team that they've got the potential that in moments they can cause you problems. And that's what they did last night. They didn't have as much of the ball as they would like. They didn't look as dangerous as perhaps they have done in previous years. They'd always have those moments. And when they had those moments last night, if it wasn't Darwin Núñez going through on goal, Carvalho and Salah, they scored and they played some nice stuff in the build-up to those goals. So Liverpool carry a huge threat. But I do think Villa can get some joy. And we know, Neil, that Emery will have some form of game plan, like he did against Manchester United and like he did against Brighton. The Villa players will be drilled. They'll have been watching footage all week. They'll know exactly what they have to do in and out of possession. And I'm excited to see it back again because back at Villa Park, Boxing Day against a big team, I actually fancy us. And I think the stuff we'll have worked on in pre-season, you've got me doing it now. The stuff we've been working on in that mid-season break, I fancy us to see a truer version of what Emery wants. And I'm looking forward to seeing what game plan he has.
And there's one thing I think that, okay, the results didn't go the right way. The goals didn't flow like we thought maybe they would. But, we did play some tough games and we did get to see an awful lot of our players. But one of the things that I did really like from what I saw specifically in the last game that we played was, and the game against Villarreal, was our massively tight high press was brilliant. It was great to see. And that's what leads me to believe that that we're going to see more of McGinn in the second half.
I was going to ask you about that.
Because that's his bread and butter. Yeah, look, his passing isn't great, well, it's not that it's not great. It could always be better. His passing inside isn't great, but I always think he has this beautiful rake pass that comes out of nowhere, or a lovely little kind of shift of the ball to a non-running fullback maybe on the overlap or something. But his intricate passing isn't great, and that's fine. But if he wins the ball back up high and can just basically shift it to the next player to him, that's going to be worth its weight in gold. Buendia started to do it in fits and starts, and Emi Martinez spoke about, I did it again. Unai Emery started. There's too many
obsessed with Emi Martinez.
I'm obsessed with him. Absolutely obsessed with Emi Martinez. But Unai Emery mentioned and name-checked Emi Buendia today in the press conference as well, saying he was a very good player and he's really happy because of his competitive nature, and every day he does good work and he doesn't like to put in a bad day's training. So maybe that's a precursor. Maybe that's hey, Jacob Ramsey isn't fully right to come back into the team, but you've got a 38 million pound player like Emi Buendia that's there again, like Emi Buendia there again. They can come in and can still give you that wasp-like mentality to chase players down. And I think this is going to be a big next 6 months for somebody like Buendia. I think it's going to be huge six months for him because he hasn't, he's been okay, but he hasn't really set the world on fire for Aston Villa. But I think he knows, and I think the fans know that he has it in him, and it's more so about playing time for him and finding the right kind of fluidity for him within the team. So fingers crossed, as you mentioned, that the tactic that Emery has is going to involve that high press, and if it does, I think we could very easily see Emi Buendia or Jacob Ramsey and McGinn, as you mentioned there, and as the two wider midfielders.
Yeah, because the two in the middle pick themselves. Luiz and Kamara's got the potential to be a mouth-watering partnership in midfield. Both very, very good on the ball. I think Luiz recently, the defensive side of his game's picked back up again. And Kamara, we know how good he is at intercepting, winning the ball, keeping the ball, laying it off. So, that's a midfield partnership there that I think can flourish. It is the two wider players, although they're only wide really out of possession. Because if you look back to the Brighton game, McGinn, in that game, you saw him doing the things that you want to see John McGinn doing, which under Steven Gerrard, we haven't been able to see. And John McGinn himself hasn't been able to do those things that he's good at because of what he's been asked to do following the instruction that was given to him by the manager. But against Brighton, you saw him breaking beyond the forward players. He won us that penalty, breaking, doing the things that you want to see John McGinn doing. At the end of the game, trying to see it out, he was pressing, diving in, winning the ball for us. McGinn put in a great performance in that game at Brighton. I was there in that away end, a rare day in the away end where I didn't drink. And John McGinn was absolutely outstanding in seeing that game out, and was good in what Villa did going forward as well. So you're kind of playing this hybrid wide midfielder / central midfielder when you come in forward, kind of end up being a number 10 in possession. That suits John McGinn there, where he's had his good games for Scotland. And I think it's very, very clever what Emery's done there. Obviously, At Villarreal, he's liked to set up in that way anyway. You'll sometimes see Coquelin was someone who played wide for Villarreal.
Yes.
Now, he is a orthodox defensive midfield player, isn't he?
Capoue.
But for Villarreal, yeah, and Capoue as well, they were both playing as wide players out of possession. I think it's really clever, and I really think it might bring the best out of McGinn. And he hasn't been great over the last 12 months. I'm not disputing that, but I do think a lot of that isn't down to him. I do think it's part of being asked to follow an instruction and given tactical advice from the manager that just didn't suit him. If you see him under Emery, there's people saying he won't be good enough for where Villa are trying to go. I actually think he might step up, and I think he'll surprise a few people, because I think this system and the fluid nature of it, I actually think defensively it will let McGinn do the things that he's good at, the defensive side of the game. But I also think attacking wise as well, it'll let him do the things he's good at as well. And I thought we've seen signs of that in pre-season as well. Pre-season, God, I mean, you're having a mare here. We've seen signs of that in the mini break as well when we played against Chelsea with him popping up with that goal, a lovely team move.
Yeah.
But I also think we saw signs of it just before the break as well in the Brighton game now. So I'm actually quite buoyed by what we might see from John McGinn, because I think he's been held back over the last 12 to 18 months, not really been able to do what he was good at, and he's been written off and he's took some criticism. I've given him criticism because he wasn't playing well, but I think if you look at the bigger picture, the tactical setup has not helped the guy one bit.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like the thing with John McGinn is John McGinn always looks like a guy who will do exactly what you tell him. And
that's what footballers should do. That's what the manager's there for, isn't it?
Exactly. But I suppose realistically speaking, sometimes when if you're told, okay, I want you to be there and I want you to be this kind of Tasmanian devil in the middle of midfield, I want you to run around the place, try and get the ball back. If anything breaks in the middle of midfield, it's up to you to win that ball. Sometimes it can become a detriment, because you almost take too much on your shoulders. And I think that, John McGinn is obviously loved within the club. He's been made club captain by the previous manager. Everybody to a man says he's the heart and soul of the dressing room. We even have to go back and look at the turkey suit that he had before. You look at him, he was in at the Acorns Foundation or at the Children's Hospital recently as well. The man is a good egg, really good egg. He's a really nice person. He's really brilliant, really kind of just a great individual. Put it this way, if he rocked up to the door with my daughter, I'd say, do you know what? Fair play, you after picking a good one. And he's a good footballer. And I think where we kind of fall in, where I'm going to talk about myself here, where I fall into the trap is that, certain footballers will they'll be really good at some things, and they won't be really good at other things. And, we can all crave the rounded footballer, and we will get a rounded footballer. We do have rounded footballers in our team. I think Douglas Luiz is very, very quickly turning into a rounded footballer.
Even if you put him in ask him to do something that he's not capable of, he's going to find it hard.
We did. Towards the end of last season, people were kind of giving out about Douglas Luiz as well. So what I'm trying to get at here is that John McGinn is going to need to play himself into form as well. But I think he's well capable of it. And with the whole, we need to get rid of him and get better quality on board. And that conversation, people who have that idea, fair play to them, they can have that idea. I don't disagree with theirs, but what my full-throated kind of opinion is that unless you're going to bring in somebody that's better than absolutely everybody in our midfield and can do the things that John McGinn can do, and I'll be honest with you, for his effort around the field, they don't come at a small price, then I think it's well worth keeping on to John McGinn. And I think over the next, as you said there, over the next 6 months, the likes of John McGinn, the Emi Buendias, I think that they're going to flourish. They're going to grow more into this team. I more so hope that they're going to flourish, and I hope that they're going to grow into this team, because that saves us some players that we do need to go out and buy. And if we can go out and maybe spend all our money on a strike partnership, or even one striker, or maybe buy another centre half, or maybe shore up our two full back positions with very good backups that can come in and that can really push those two players on that we have, well, then that's money saved. As I say, there will obviously be a central midfielder coming in at some stage, I think, but if we don't have to get two or three, I don't think it'll be
January. I think Villa will bring two. In my opinion, Villa will bring two in January. One will be a wide player and one will be a striker.
Yeah,
that's what and they'll go big and they'll spend money. Emery will be backed, just like Steven Gerrard was 12 months ago, allowed to bring in the players he wants. Unai Emery will be backed because they bought him in, because they wanted this elite manager, so they have to back him. And in January, I think, to play the way Emery wants, I think they'll need another striker and they'll need another wide player. But I agree with what you just said. You obviously want the perfect midfield player. Jude Bellingham, for example,
yes,
there's very little that he does badly in terms of midfielders. That's why he's worth 150 million. Villa can't go out and sign a Jude Bellingham because there's only not many players like that out there. He has very few weaknesses to his game. He's a freak. If you look at Leandro Dendoncker, when he came in for those few games, he was asked to do the things that he's good at. He's not asked to do anything spectacular or something that he's not capable of. He was asked to do the simple things, and he did those simple things well because they're his strengths. Taking up good positions defensively, winning the ball, passing it off to someone short and simple, and letting them get on with moving the ball forward and progressing the ball forward. Then Donker was allowed to do the things he was good at. Under Steven Gerrard, John McGinn was not allowed to do the things that he was good at, but we're now just starting to see that he might be allowed to do those things that he is good at and not have to do the things that he isn't good at. And that's what you want. There's very few midfield players that are really well-rounded and good at everything. So you have to get them to play to their strengths. And that's what Unai Emery will be good at. He'll identify player strengths and he'll set them up in a way that benefits them. And that's what we haven't had.
As I say, I agree, and like the litmus test for this is you go and you watch Brighton, and you see if Alexis McAllister has exactly the same impact for Brighton as he did for Argentina. He'll be hoping he can. All Brighton fans would be hoping he can have that impact because he was absolutely electric in this World Cup. But when when he's not playing alongside Enzo Fernandez, maybe when he doesn't have the two wide players that he can shift the ball out to and they take up a bit more attention, should I say, from maybe defensive midfielders or fullbacks. That's what I'm getting at here. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but what I'm saying is that different positions, different players being asked to do different things within teams is very much a real thing within the football world, and it doesn't just happen at Aston Villa. Is what I'm trying to get at.
This is where just having this coach that we've got, this elite level coach who coaches the players, works with the players, works on every little detail and aspect of his system for the game, for the specific game. I think it's going to do wonders for so many players. So many of them now who've been inconsistent, who we've been thinking, is this player good enough? Has he got enough to his game? I don't think it'll matter if you're not the perfect footballer, because I think you'll be asked to do the things that are your strengths, and your weaknesses will be covered because someone else will be there covering that weakness, doing the bit that he's good at. That's what Unai Emery will do. And I've made that sound like football's really, really simple. And so sometimes it is. Steven Gerrard set up Villa in a way that just did not get the best out of any of the players that were there. He was asking players to do things that didn't suit their game. Even the fullbacks being so high, I don't think that suited either fullback, Matty Cash or Luke. I know Matty Cash popped up with a few goals last season, but especially this season, you're asking people to be in a position when they receive the ball that's not their best, it's not good for them. The starting positions for them even now will be so much more effective. And you could see in the Manchester United game at Villa Park, they weren't as far forward, but they're picking up the ball in space because of the way Villa were playing and the way they were in and out of possession. Honestly, I'm so excited for this manager. And I've been excited about things before and been completely wrong about them. But honestly, this manager is the real deal. And I just look at it and I think we're in for a bright future and hopefully a really, really positive second half of the season. And yeah, we might not win on Boxing Day, but I guarantee you'll see some form of performance and you'll come away knowing what the plan was. The plan may not work, but you'll know what Villa were trying to do. You know what? We'll probably have a bit of fun watching it, and I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really looking forward to it as well. And I presume you're going to be in Villa Park.
Yep. I'll be in my seat in the whole end. Looking forward to it. It feels like so long now. That Manchester United game at Villa Park feels an age ago. Even that Brighton game as well feels so long ago. To be back on Boxing Day is going to be special. Yes, I'd like Emi Martinez to be in goal, but he's not going to be probably. So we'll go there. We'll give Liverpool a game. Make no bones about that. Yeah, I saw AVFC Stato's tweet. The away team usually wins this game, don't they, Neil? We've had some good days down at Anfield as a football team. We've gone there and won at Anfield a few times, and Liverpool have had some good days at Villa Park as well. Unfortunately, our best day against them at Villa Park was when there was COVID and we couldn't go and watch, and we beat them 7-2. I'd kill for a 7-2. But no, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this now because I think you'll see the signs were already there anyway, and obviously we picked up 6 points in these first two games, which was way more than I think we could have been hoping for.
Yeah.
To see them now after a bit of work as well, it's going to be a good one down Villa Park on Boxing Day. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's finish with a score prediction then, please, Neil.
I am going to go with a 1-1 draw.
I'm going to do the same. I did the Athletic Football podcast yesterday, and obviously it's previewing everything in the Premier League, and I actually predicted us to lose, which I don't normally do. I predicted us to lose 2-1, but I'm going to change that now. I've talked myself into a 1-1. Liverpool are a fantastic team. Whatever player they put in, they're a dangerous team. And Darwin Núñez last night looked like he couldn't finish his dinner, but he's a bit inconsistent. He's a bit like that at the moment. He could well turn up at Villa Park, and we've seen some of his excellent finishes as well in certain games. He's very up and down. He just had a
if you're
bad
down
game.
on your luck, Dan, you come to Villa Park. That's where people
yeah,
come.
Of course. That's going to change under this leadership now.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah,
I don't think Darwin Núñez at the moment. He's just adapted. He's very up and down, but he's had some ups as well in his time in a Liverpool shirt so far. Last night was a down for him. He may well turn up at Villa Park and be an absolute world beater. That's just the way he's playing at the moment. Salah looks quiet, but football matches, as we found out in the World Cup, are won in moments, and Salah is more than capable of having moments. But that midfield, it's not quite the level it has been. That's where I think Villa might be able to win the game, because I do think that partnership of Kamara and Luiz, and then whoever's playing wide coming inside as well, I think that's where Villa could potentially win this game on Boxing Day. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. Thanks to Neil for joining me. Thanks to you guys for tuning in as well. My apologies that we were late. Adam, producer, got stuck in some traffic. It is Christmas, so we're going to let him off doing stuff with his family. We are looking to push the channel in the new year. We're going to have a couple of new shows, hopefully. Talks are progressing about them at the moment. We're going to try and get out a bit more regular content, and obviously sticking to the match previews and the post-match points as well. So there should be more Villa View and more of the familiar faces that you've watched over the years. Fingers crossed. This will be our last show before Christmas, so I hope that you all have an excellent Christmas. You too, Neil, with your little one. I hope you have a magical time. I hope you have a great time with your kid and your family. And yeah, I hope all the Villa fans have a wonderful Christmas. We'll be back with a post-match part. Might try and do that Boxing Day evening, depending on how the time goes and the game goes itself as well. If not, it'll be the day after. But yeah, enjoy your Christmases. Have a good one with your family and friends, and up the Villa.